Is the Switch 2 worth it? This is an unboxing from a data scientist, and I'll give you a unique perspective on whether it's worth it. However, before we get into the video, the last Switch 2 hacking video got 60,000+ views and went viral, and I would not be surprised if Nintendo themselves saw it. The last video was plagued with controversy, with skeptics believing that the Switch 2 cannot be hacked, as well as Nintendo fanboys who have had enough of the Nintendo abuse. So let's talk about the Switch 2. I also got an Elgato HD60X for the gameplay and the screen protector, which I'll cover in this video. Firstly, I paid £470 for the Mario Kart Edition Nintendo Switch 2. And I must say, in regards to presentation, Nintendo has exceeded all expectations. Honestly, first impressions are remarkable. I remember the first time I got a Switch 1 and was absolutely blown away. However, the Switch 2 exceeds in all dimensions. Visually, the Switch 2 is just beautiful. However, my only critique that I can inject is that the box is a little bit small. Anyways, once opened, you're instantly hit with the Switch 2 on the left and 2 JoyCons on the right. The JoyCons are wrapped in plastic and they fitted perfectly in my hands. Now that I've held them, comparing them to the Switch 1 JoyCons, the JoyCons on the Switch 1 just feel like an absolute toy. The two new standout features of the JoyCons is that one, you can use it as a mouse. Now, of course, this won't replace gaming PCs by any means. In my personal opinion, it's a nice innovation and a gateway into the gaming PC world. And also the second trigger actually does feel remarkable. I did notice some rigidness in the stick of the JoyCon, and I genuinely thought this was a manufacturing default. My heart did sink a bit, but this resolved it thankfully itself later. The second JoyCon is just as beautiful with a nice blue, and the stick had no rigidness and it felt great in my hands. Honestly, I keep saying this because it was like Nintendo designed them for me or something. The Switch 2 is huge. The screen size is 7.9 inches and it does show, which is 31% larger than the Switch 1. The screen, however, is only LCD and it supports 1920 by 1080 in handheld mode. I truly believe that it's LCD because Nintendo's planning to sell us an OLED version later. On top of the device, you have a USB-C port, power button, volume buttons, heat vents, and also a headphone jack. And on the bottom of the device, you have another USB-C port that is used for both docking and power, as well as the outlet for the speakers. The JoyCons then stick on magnetically, which we'll cover this later. Subsequently, we are then presented with the Mario Kart game code, and honestly, I'm not a fan of this format. I like digital copies. Feel free to try and redeem the code yourself. However, I've already redeemed it, but it might work. Here are the instruction manuals, and I just did what everyone else did and just put them to the side. Next, we have a standard HDMI cable, which is included as standard practice for all consoles. And then we were hit with the Joy-Con straps. At the start, I did not know what these were. I was very, very confused because they felt so cheap compared to the rest of the device and the Joy-Cons. And then I realized what they were. They were designed to protect the Joy-Cons. And for the £400 console, this is honestly subpar. This was not a highlight of the unboxing in comparison to the rest of the device and the other Joy-Cons. However, they get the job done and maybe a third-party solution can be implemented later. The craftsmanship of the Joy-Con controller holder is definitely an improvement. It has a magnetic attachment feature instead of the sliding mechanism that the Switch 1 had, and I also do like the branding designed at the front. You attach the Joy-Cons, one on the right and one on the left. Again, I just want to emphasize that this controller just feels like it's been tailored for my hands. I know this isn't true objectively, but that's just how I feel. Moving on swiftly to a controversial aspect of the Switch 2, and that is the 15 volt 3A 45 volt adapter. And the reason why this is a controversial aspect is because Nintendo has unfortunately implemented, in my personal opinion, a foul practice of encrypting, i.e., not letting third-party devices be implemented onto the device. Therefore, if you need a replacement for your AC adapter, you need to buy Nintendo's original, which costs are significant. Finally, in regards to the docking station of the Switch 2, I understand that there has been mixed reviews online. However, in my personal opinion, and holding this in my hands, that these reviews are a bit skewed. The device docking station is great. It's got a vent, it's got the ports, and it's just the same as the Switch 1 in my personal opinion, just with different branding. So I do think the reviews are harsh. I will now demonstrate how to set up the Switch 2 in docking mode. So first you slide in the Switch 2 into the docking station like so. I will provide one further critique here that I've encountered with my Switch 2. It doesn't hold into place too well, so if you do knock it, it will fall. Now I'm testing out the Joy-Con wrist straps as I critiqued before, and honestly, I'm not too sure what I'm doing here. I think I've been watching too many Bruce Lee movies. Yeah, okay. Oh, wow. Anyways, so you can attach the USB-C adapter on top of the device. That's if you're playing the console in handheld mode. That's why it's placed there, which is a nice design aspect of the Switch 2. Or you can attach it inside the hidden compartments with the 3 ports, which has the USB-C, the HDMI, and the Ethernet port. The HDMI simply slides in like so. The USB follows, and so does the Ethernet port. The compartment door then slides back on and it all fits snugly. You do have to adjust the wires a bit for it to work. However, I managed to do this with a bit of adjusting. Now to power on the device, you simply press the power button on the top left and you hit with the Nintendo Switch 2 logo, which is beautiful. The setup process is very simple and straightforward, nothing out of the ordinary. You type in the language, the dates, etc. However, you are then presented with this tedious, long-winded instruction after instruction, and you're just pressing next and next and next, and you're just hoping you'll get to the screen. And honestly, I was reading it at the start, you know, being all professional and stuff, but I just gave up. I then got excited about the Nintendo boot logo, and then I was hit with more setup screen. I typed my name in, chose a favicon, and boom, I was hit with the Nintendo Switch startup. In the final part of the video, to capture the game footage, I did purchase a Elgato HD60X, which did cost me around £130. Now, I did have an Elgato HD60S because I'm a huge Elgato fanboy. However, it did not be compatible with my MacBook, so I did upgrade, and this is universally compatible with both a MacBook and Windows. Anyways, the device is very simple. Your HDMI goes in, USB-C goes into your computer, and you capture your footage through either OBS or vMix or whatever the software. I then bought a screen protector, and the reason I included it in the video is actually because it's so cheap, but really, really good. The presentation is honestly outstanding, and I just wanted to include it in the video. I'll leave the link in the description if you're interested in buying it yourself.
Hey!
So the question still remains, is the Switch 2 worth it? And should you pay for it for £450 with Mario Kart World? And the answer to this is that I honestly think that Nintendo has recently switched its business practices in one of alignment with Apple. And what I mean by that is if you're paying for raw performance, I personally wouldn't recommend it. However, Nintendo knows on a deeper level that no matter what it does, no matter which direction it decides to take the business, there'll always be that hardcore audience that will always buy their IP, despite the rocket prices in games, accessories, and the foul practices that they deploy. I honestly think though, if you are a Nintendo fanboy, I've got first-hand experience with this device and it is phenomenal. That's my verdict. If you liked the video, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Take care and have a beautiful, blessed day.